What is going on, guys? Welcome to the live stream today. I am hoping you guys are having a fantastic day and, of course, a fantastic summer. So today I want to talk about the PlayStation 5 and some very big problems that have come up over the last couple of days. I know a lot of people are very excited for the PlayStation 5, me being one of them. The issue at hand, though, is always that Sony likes to do things their own way. They always have. And that's the reason why PlayStation 1 games don't play on PS3. That's the reason why PS1 and PS2 games don't play on PS4. It's the reason why they're not backwards compatible. It's the reason why the PS3 failed. Miserably, might I say. The only time Microsoft really ever had a chance at taking out big Sony is the PS3 fiasco, which was directly correlated to their absolutely horrific hardware setup. Now, it was not horrific in terms of what it was capable of. It was horrific in terms of nobody could program for it. Just look it up. It's just a nightmare. It's a bloody nightmare. It took developers like 3 or 4 years to even really be able to produce games for it properly, which is why if you look at the last set of games for the PS3, the last year or two, it was good. Before that, it was garbage. It was utter garbage. In any case, and I'm a PlayStation fanatic, but it was just horrible. So what is going on with the PS5? Well, here we go, guys. Let's talk about this. We already know the Xbox Series X is 12 teraflops. Or is it? Well, according to more leaked info, Sony has said that it's 10.2 teraflops for their PS5, but apparently from leaked specs, it's really only about 9.6. Does this matter in today's gaming market as much as we really want it to, or is it just kind of like specs on paper? Well, considering the PlayStation 4 was like 1.5 teraflops or 1.6 teraflops, the PS5 is going to be like 6 or 7 times more powerful, which for 4K is more than enough. So, do we really care about 9 or 10? Not really. But in any case, I know I don't. The problem here is that Sony has a very big problem, considering if Microsoft was to go off of how Sony is rated its teraflops, the Xbox Series X would be more like 13.5 or 14. Now, this is not what I'm saying. This is what other tech people have put out there, that if we're going to go off of how Sony is rating their system, the Xbox Series X is most likely around 14 teraflops. Yikes. That is pretty crazy, right? 14 teraflops is a lot. That would put it at being 2.3 times more powerful than Xbox One X, which would then again put it as being 10 times more powerful than the original Xbox. So that's crazy, right? So let's dive into PlayStation 5's problem. Xbox Series X is more like novel technology. I don't want to really get into what that means, but it is what it is. So it's going to be, exactly what they say it is. 12.4 teraflops. It's going to perform pretty much like hardware should. Everything's going to be simplistic. Think of it as a computer. Now, with Sony, they love to make things the Sony way, meaning there's no backwards compatibility. It does not operate like a computer. It operates like a console. These are all great things. However, Sony has been pretty much famous for creating their own hardware flows with newer technologies, which makes it an advanced system in some ways, but in other ways makes it extremely difficult to develop for. PlayStation 5, yet again, is no slouch when it comes to this department, considering AMD's new Smart Shift technology. Well, what does that mean? Let me break down for you guys why Smart Shift eventually could mean PlayStation 5 could be the most powerful console on the market, but at the same time, simultaneously, could make PS5's launch suck and a lot of people unhappy. Developers are already bitching and complaining about this because of the fact that Smart Shift technology is extremely hard to program for. In fact, Sony would have to tell the developers how to use this. It would be their responsibility along with AMD. However, they're not doing this, so developers are very limited on how to use this brand new technology in a console. What Smart Shift technology does is you have a graphics card and a processor, and when they hit a thermal limit, which means too much power draw or just basically at the limit of its core usage, it's going to designate a down clock over to the CPU and vice versa, CPU to GPU. Meaning if you're on a scene in a video game that requires very little processing, the CPU may do some of the processing to help out the GPU. When you get to a high intensive load area where there's lots of graphics needed, like shadows and HDR and all kinds of stuff, the graphic processor or GPU will hit its limit. Well, the CPU will downclock it to keep it under its thermal rating, and the CPU will now kick in to help produce those graphics and communicate along the motherboard to give you guys a seamless experience. The problem is with smart shift technology, you have to develop for it, meaning that when game developers make a video game for PS5, they have to pretty much dedicate a whole set of people to make that game because it's not the same as Xbox. It's not like making a PC game and an Xbox game where it's pretty much very similar. You're now putting yourself in a position as a developer where you're going to be, I guess you could say, to a degree, theoretically, making a PS3 game again because of how advanced this system is. The problem is that the smart shift technology was a way for Sony to not really lie, but kind of connive their way into the market at a 10.2 teraflop. It's almost certainty that at this point, that if AMD smart shift technology was not in the console, they would not be producing 10.2 teraflops. They would probably be producing about 7. So why did they put smart shift technology in there? Was it to benefit, or was it to just benefit themselves in being able to advertise a higher teraflop rate? Which is the same thing as cars when they advertise horsepower. They say you make 600 horsepower, but in reality you dyno at 510. It's an advertising gimmick. The console's going to be great as it is, but the AMD smart shift technology was put in there to not only benefit games in the future, but it was also a big part of their advertising ploy to produce 10.2 teraflops. If you remember, about a year ago, Series X released all this information on their console. It's been out there for a while. PlayStation realized their system couldn't keep up, and that's a reality. Everybody talked about this a year ago or so, that PS5 was not as fast as Xbox Series X, so they implemented smart shift technology, maybe not entirely based on advertisement and based on teraflops and to keep up with Xbox Series X, but they did implement it to assist. If you take smart shift technology out of the PS5, it's considerably slower than Series X, but they have smart shift technology, so they don't need the same hardware. They can produce relatively the same results. The problem is developers are going apeshit right now because they don't know how to use smart shift in the PS5. Now, I'm going to show you guys some proof of this and what's going on, and what's going to happen here is we're going to have some serious issues with the PlayStation at launch. Games are not going to run to full capacity, meaning that if they don't get their stuff in order here, we could very well see Xbox Series X come out in a strong area at launch. They could really outsell PlayStation. It may not happen in the first couple of weeks or first couple of months, but I would say about 2 to 3 months after launch, people could start flocking to the Xbox Series X, because I know for a fact, as a streamer and a video game lover, there's no way I'm going to spend a year playing shit games because they can't get their stuff in order. In fact, I've already been down this road with Sony before. When I bought the PS3, I thought it was okay, but it was really garbage in a lot of ways. I bought Xbox 360 and I only purchased 3 games for the PS3 in a matter of 4 years. 3 games, that's it, 3 games. Demon's Souls being one of them. So Xbox 360 was pretty much my go-to console for the previous generation. Now, as we move forward to the next generation, we have the same problem because Sony likes to play things their own way. They've always done this. You know, it's not really an issue for them because in the long run, they're probably going to remain the king for a very long time. And that's not me being a fanboy. I want to get that really straight. You don't become the king for 26 years and then just lose your spot or lose your position. It doesn't just happen that easy. You don't just go under. Most champions at that level, they stay on top for a very long time. They know what they're doing. They make mistakes, but they move on. Sony obviously wants to implement this smart technology and this smart shift with AMD. And I think that this is a very big problem and simultaneously a very big success. Now, you're probably sitting there saying, Jesus Christ, what are you talking about? How can you seriously say this is a success and a failure at the same time? Well, you got to think about this as in a dual kind of timeline. In the year 2022 or 2023, PlayStation 5's Smart Shift is going to be mind-blowing, especially when the PS5 Pro comes out. You're going to be getting a lot of teraflops, a lot of graphical power. Everything's going to work great. The system is going to be fantastic. However, for the first year or two, it's going to be a nightmare. Please, Sony, don't allow this debacle to become the fiasco the PS3 was. Do not allow this, because Microsoft does not need ammunition to take you out. The Series X is already good. The only chance Sony really has at this point is exclusives, which they do have. So it's still an uphill battle for Microsoft, but we don't need to make the hill shorter. So Sony, get your stuff in order. I'm going to show you guys what developers are saying. Before that, I want to explain to you guys that the PS5 hardware is indeed at its thermal limit. The silicon is at the limit. If you guys don't know what that means they implemented AMD's Smart Shift technology because the CPU and GPU are maxed out. When I say that, they are at the absolute thermal limit without it blowing up or overheating or malfunctioning or creating self-damage at 10.2 teraflops. That is a rating that Sony gave us with the CPU and GPU using Smart Shift, both of which are maxed out. The cooling system in that PlayStation 5 is very heavy, and the fans are going to be loud, a lot louder than Xbox Series X, and I'm starting to realize this after looking at some thermal notes on PlayStation's hardware. This is very sucky if you ask me, because they've maxed out a GPU and a CPU with louder and more efficient cooling than Xbox Series X, and they still don't have the teraflop capabilities. Really, as a gamer, I'm always going to buy PlayStation, but if it sucks as bad as PS3, I'm going to skip this generation. I may buy it and try it. If it sucks, I may sell it. I don't know at this point. I hope it's not completely true, what I've read, but it's really hard because based on the specs that I've read, me being a tech guy, I know what they mean, and it does not look promising like immediately. It's going to be a problem for developers. Xbox Series X, on the other hand, has had its own share of problems. 343 Studios has delayed Halo Infinite. You're not going to get that at launch. So in reality, Xbox Series X has no launch titles, really. I mean, they do, but not like Sony. Sony's got Resident Evil 8 coming out. They got Demon's Souls coming out. There's a bunch of other stuff like Silent Hill. That begs the question, is Silent Hill going to be an exclusive for PS5, or is that kind of weird considering the official Silent Hill account is following key people at Xbox Series X and Microsoft, but they're not following anybody at Sony PlayStation or PlayStation 5 for that matter. So it's very possible Series X could be getting the exclusive Silent Hill at this point. And if that's the case, Sony's in trouble, big trouble, because the fact of the developer issues and the Silent Hill game and everything as a whole, Series X is going to do considerably better than I thought they would. If they don't get Silent Hills as an exclusive and Halo is pushed back, then it might just be kind of a flop for both. They might both struggle equally, which will be putting them pretty much in the same position they've always been in. Sony will outsell them, but they're both going to struggle. It's really hard to tell, and considering Series X is going to sell for around $400 and PlayStation is going to be around $500. Yes, that price actually leaked a few days ago. I don't know how relevant this person is that leaked it, but apparently Microsoft will be $100 cheaper. With that being said, the developer issues and the price difference could be the nail in the coffin for Sony at launch. I don't know. At this point, I think it's really crazy because nobody knows anything for 100% except the specs of the system. What do you guys think? What's up, boss? What's up, Adam? I appreciate you guys stopping in. And this, like I said, is going to be a very weird situation at hand. Let me show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to put this right here. We're going to go over and look at the third-party issues. You can see developing multi-platform games hasn't been a big issue in this generation, but as the Xbox One and PS4 are really very similar machines under the hood. They are. They're damn near identical. That's about to change. Microsoft is taking a traditional approach, which is basically what I said, novel, meaning it's the typical approach to building a system. Plenty of CPU and GPU grunt. Sony's focusing on cutting-edge solid-state drive and variable frequency GPU-CPU, which is the Smart Shift to deliver a next-gen experience, which is going to be much better going forward, but how much further in the future before we can use it? As a result, developing games is not going to be as simple as it was. They talked about, they were warning that the Smart Shift are assuming that PS5 is going to be with Xbox Series X. They don't know for sure, but it's worrisome. They're saying that at launch, it could be troublesome to the point where you could start getting stories saying that PS5 is kind of whack, blah, blah, blah. Call of Duty and Madden are going to suffer, they're saying. He leaks a bunch of stuff saying that I'm going to hate myself for responding to this, but I can feel it. This guy says it's horribly toxic, but a lot of people misrepresented or misinterpreted what I said. Partially my fault. Resident Evil 8 will run fine at launch. It was never a question. He says they get ready for the real possibilities that PS5 is going to end up being more expensive between the two. I'm not trying to say much here, as I asked you not to, but prepare yourself. They said Microsoft is going to be the less expensive, more powerful console, and he used Resident Evil 8 as an example. The devs are struggling with PS5 games with 4K in particular, so you could see fake 4K, so it's going to be that checkerboard rendering and stuff like that. This information, there's a lot here. I don't want to go over all this and bore you guys to death, but simply put, PlayStation has the better technology. But what good is technology if you don't know how to use it? I mean, you could have something very awesome, but if you have no idea how you're going to use it, what are you going to do? Like, just think about that. If you don't know how to use what you have, what good is it? And that's the problem with PS5. And I just hope this doesn't continue. And by the way, I'm not misinterpreting Dusk Golem stuff, because none of this really came from Dusk Golem, just the last part. I'm going off of what developers are actually talking about in different articles. Now, I don't have to go off articles that I've read. I'm going off of their actual hardware, because smart shift technology and shifting between CPU and GPU is a very difficult task to program for. That's a fact. Anybody knows that. If you know anything about computers, you know that is going to be a very difficult task, which means people who program games for PS5 are going to have to work even harder to do the same thing they would on an Xbox Series X. This is not hate. This is not fanboy. This is not me being a Microsoft lover, considering I have way more Sony stuff than I do Xbox. I am just speaking from factual, hardware-related tech stuff, like what it literally is on paper and what developers are saying about that hardware on paper. Only time will tell. That's the issue. Time. We have to give them time. So I'm hoping you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for stopping in and watching. It's not crazy new tech, but it's definitely new tech for a console, and Sony has not told the devs how to use it, and the devs don't know how to use it because they're already complaining about it. So right now, they don't know how to use it. That's the problem. No matter how much we say it's there, we know how to use it. It's been done before. They don't. They're having problems right now. So how long before they learn how to use it? That's the question, because if they don't know how to use it come November, December for launch titles, PlayStation owners are going to suffer with drop frame rates and possible not as high fidelity of graphics. That's just the reality of the situation. In any case, I really appreciate you guys stopping and watching the video. Be sure to tap the bell notification, subscribe, of course, like and comment. What do you guys think of today's video? And of course, you've got to stop in for the live streams, which will be starting tonight in about 2.5 hours, maybe sooner. Just be watching for that notification. We got some Call of Duty action coming up for you guys tonight. So I thank you for stopping in. I really appreciate it. We'll see you guys on the next upload. Take care. Have a great day. Be safe. We'll see you guys soon. Peace.